This episode is brought to you with the help from Newbelity. Newbelity is your go-to IT partner offering tailored solutions in talent acquisition, infrastructure support, network reliability, and cutting-edge AI. We help you stay ahead by turning technology into a strategic advantage for your business. Newbelity, turning your challenges into powerful opportunities.
All right, well, welcome to the Viking Press Pass. I'm Matthew Nickel, voice of Augustana football. And hey, joining me today, Hugh Keany, defensive tackle, captain for the Vikings. So, Hugh, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So, Hugh, for those, maybe, watching, don't really know much about you, mind doing just a quick intro about yourself?
Sure. I'm Hugh Keany. I'm a senior defensive tackle from Chicago, Illinois. I went to Notre Dame High School in Niles. Been here at Augie obviously for 4 years now. I love it. It's a great time. But yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Well, I certainly appreciate you jumping on and kind of fitting me in here on it. It's a big week. So, I mean, they're all big weeks, but probably none bigger than this one here this season. So, hey, we're in week 8 of the season. The Vikings are 3-3. Let's talk a little bit about Saturday. Carroll has always been a tough matchup for us. The prior 3 matchups were kind of decided by 4 points or less. But coming out of Saturday, what were just kind of some of your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, so I mean, the first thought for me is, give or take 2-3 plays, we're absolutely in that game or winning that game. You know what I mean? So it's just trying to figure out those little humps we got to get over. Working at fixing those mistakes. That was a big thing. And like I said, it's just 2 to 3 things that, if it had gone differently, we would have a different conversation today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it was back and forth. A couple of scary moments. I know, Braden Smith went down. Yoren went down. I know he was in there kicking with, I'm assuming, a sore leg, sore ankle. I'm not sure exactly what he was, but yeah, it's always a tough matchup, man. But nonetheless, we got a big one coming up again here Saturday, so can't really rest on what happened a couple days ago, and let's focus forward. So I do want to switch gears a little bit before we talk about North Central. So earlier in the year, you were featured in the Quad City Times. Tom Johnston, he closely covers the Vikings. Honestly, it was a really great piece. I thought he did a great job. I think it was a great piece on you. And a couple of things that really stood out to me. So, one I want to maybe talk about is Tim Swaney, Aaron Lopez, Chase Tatum. Those were all influential, folks in your career. In what ways did they really kind of help, show you the way? Can you maybe expand on what you meant in that a little bit?
Yeah. So, for one, I mean, just one thing is like all those guys were always in the weight room. And like, that was one thing I've carried over from high school is like, I really placed an important emphasis on off-season training in the weight room. So kind of like my freshman year, kind of meeting new people. I wasn't really that familiar with everyone. They kind of stepped up, helped me out, kind of showed me the way with that. So, I mean, it turned into us working out almost every day together, Saturday mornings, Sunday mornings during the off season. And just kind of, taking me under the wing. Cause like I said, I didn't know many people coming in. I had my roommate, he used to go here. I went to high school with him, but other than that, I didn't know many people. So just kind of hanging out with them, kind of seeing the way they do things and like their dedication to the game, especially, film wise, we would always watch film together. So that's another thing, but also just being there for me, they're great friends and I know I have friends for life. So that was awesome.
What were some things that they showed you that were from your, like, whether it's, weekly preparation, kind of game day preparation, what were some of those things that, they kind of, that you picked up on, kind of over time?
One I think would be mental preparation. I watch a ton of film. I like to pride myself on that. And just watching, the amount of film they would watch and kind of like keeping up with that, talking about the game in that way is kind of one big thing I picked up from them as well. But also taking care of your body too. They're always working, stretching, getting themselves ready, putting themselves in prime positions to make plays. and kind of having that mentality that like I can't be stopped. You know what I mean? I'm gonna work hard every time to get into the play, get involved, and that was one thing that I kind of picked up from them. I mean, just watching them play, it kind of it gives me inspiration to keep going. So having those guys there and now the guys next to me this year just continually keeps me motivated to play.
Now you're super competitive. I'm going to make that assumption, just kind of
Mm-hmm.
based on I think on how you play, on the field. Coming in as a freshman, sophomore, and really starting to get a lot of reps, kind of in your sophomore year. I mean, working out with those guys. How much did that really drive you to continue to get kind of bigger, faster, stronger? Early on in your first 2 years.
Oh, for me, it was just I want to beat him. You know what I mean? So kind of putting myself in that position to beat him, and I know they'll say the same thing. I mean, we were always pushing each other hard, so that was a good thing. But just kind of having that hanging over your head, like, oh, I want to be, that guy, pushing each other. So that was cool. But yeah, definitely, we got pretty competitive in there, so that was kind of cool. Whether it's on the field or doing workouts or in the weight room, so that was cool.
Now, you also mentioned in that piece that Coach Bell, Coach Maloney, they were early influencers, especially in your freshman year. Um, what type of impact did they make not only early on, but they've made throughout your 4 years here?
Coach Bell, at least from a leadership standpoint, that's the big thing for me is watching him lead us is kind of one of the best things I think about our program. He's always in there with us, no matter what, pushing us to be our best. So I think that's a big thing. And Coach Maloney and Coach Call on the defensive side of the ball, and now Coach West for the last 2 years, they've really shown me how to grow as a player, not only physically but mentally, is the big thing for me. I mean, like I said, we watch a ton of film together, and also just from like a mentality standpoint within playing defensive tackle. Coach Maloney, especially, I mean, we do our mental training in the beginning of camp. We're working on things like discipline, confidence, things like that to kind of push us to that next level before we even start going into football. Just talking about how, playing on the defense, there's a certain attitude you have, there's a certain mentality you have to have. So I think that's the big thing with them, especially pushing me for that because, coming into high school, you're kind of lost. But, when you have mental training like that and like a mentality puts you in a position, it kind of helps you go a long way because then you can start picking up and say, hey, like this is, I kind of feel like it's high school, but also like this is a different game and there's a different level of mental focus that's required.
Well, and in phenomenal facilities. So,
Oh yeah,
um,
absolutely.
one of the things that the article pointed out too was, Coach Bell, alluded to a lot of this. It was around like your leadership. So, how would you describe your leadership style?
Mm-hmm. Um, I'd like to say I'm a pretty vocal leader. I like to kind of bring a lot of energy, get people excited to go. But also, I think one thing is by example, showing people, what to do, how to do it, and not like that I'm right all the time, but like it's good to have, like just a certain set of things I do and like pushing people to do that as well. I think, there's a standard when you play at Augustana and a standard when you step on the football field in general. So I think a lot of guys should strive to live for that. And for me, like this is my life right now. It's football's been my life for the past 4 years. So I hope everyone else kind of feels the same way because when this is over, we're going to look back and I'm going to miss it. But for now, I'm in it. So I might as well do it the best I can. But vocal and kind of a mix of example as well, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hey, let's talk a little run defense. So, the Vikings defense the past couple of years have really improved the run defense.
Mm-hmm.
Currently ranked number 2 in the CCIW, allowing under 100 yards a game, which is really only second to North Central. What do you think or why do you think the Vikings have been so successful this year against the run?
I think our speed is one of our big factors. We're not huge. We don't have a ton of we don't have 300-pound defensive tackles. You know what I mean? So speed is a big thing for us. Being in the right place, trusting that the guys around you are going to do their jobs is a big thing for us. So I think, with Dylan Burton behind us and Luke Willis, they really help us out. And then Ruckus Hunkins filling in from Snake. But I mean, our entire defensive line, I mean, we play our discipline and we know where we have to be. So that's the big thing. And, I mean, we always pride ourselves on stopping the run. Like last year, we kind of had a saying, like, people would say like run the damn ball. We'd say run the damn knot. That was kind of a Coach Maloney thing. So that's kind of our pride right now is stopping the run. So we know, like, hey, you're going to have to beat us through the air, and hopefully we can force teams to have to do that. But continually working towards it. I mean, we rep the run all the time because that really is sometimes the most dangerous part of the football game. So for us, it's just making sure we can take out that element of the game.
One of the things I've also noticed, not only last year, but again, continuing into this year, is an improved pursuit to the ball and getting more players to the ball. So, the solo tackles, I haven't looked the stat up, but I'm assuming solo tackles are probably down and assisted is likely up. You know, excuse me, overall for the Vikings here. To me, that seems like that's been a good strength as well in not relying so much on these one-on-one, trying to stop, these running backs out of the backfield.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was one thing from the first day of camp we really wanted to pride ourselves on was getting to the football, because when there's 11 guys in the film, as we call it, that's a sign that your defense is putting in the work. So for us, it was always getting to the ball, hustling everywhere. So during camp and even during practice, now still, whenever we're doing team segments or we're doing like scout team with the guys, we're running to the ball and then we're breaking attack, and then we say keep pounding. So kind of we always there, always together, and it kind of just brings us closer together as a team as well, because we know that everyone's going to be there and we trust that we're going to get there.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned a couple of names. Luke Willis has stepped in. He's played really nice as well this year. Dylan Burton has stepped up and is playing great. Obviously, Ruckus, is a big staple there. But, TJ Klein has done a nice job. I think one of the things I think is interesting, he's had a couple of, he's batted a few balls out of the air. Magnus Wells, gosh, he's been kicking butt. Teak Nito, he's been kicking butt. Like, it feels like it's been a pretty darn cohesive group. And, we're not getting, which will kind of allude to the second thing I want to talk through. It's like we're getting into the backfield, but we're not getting so deep where we were 3 years ago or 2 years ago, really, where, the running back could slip out from underneath or that quarterback could really kind of slip out and take off. It doesn't seem like that's happening as often or even more frequent. So you're getting a nice balance, I think, between driving that line of scrimmage back into the backfield, but not so much that it's like, you're back where, the punter's taking a snap here. So, do you feel like that accurately describes, the defensive line and kind of the push you guys have made, or?
Yeah, I think one thing is like, sometimes it's going to happen, but for us, it's like limiting that. And that's one thing I think, after North Park, we kind of had a few times where he kind of stepped up and was able to make plays. So ensuring that we're able to keep him in the pocket and at least collapse it slowly. And I think that just happens to be that, a lot of us are on the same page. You have like Jack Serta and Ryan Gustafson on the side, kind of working them in. And then, all our guys in the middle, me, TJ, Woodry, and Magnus, are going to push them and kind of collapse that pocket. But, every week, sometimes we struggle with it, but sometimes we got to keep working at it. And that's a big thing in practice is we work on keeping them contained, because we know if one guy gets there, the other guy's going to do their job and fill up. But that's just kind of a thing that goes with like cohesiveness of the group, like you said before. We're all on the same page. So that's a nice thing.
Yeah, you mentioned Jack and Ryan. Both have also been playing well this year. So now a stat I looked up last night, which I wasn't aware of, but the Vikings are number one, at least as of last night in the CCIW, defensive sacks with 18 for a loss of 139 yards. Now, we hold a slim one sack lead on Wesleyan. But last year the Vikings defense they closed out with 22 sacks on the year. We've got 4 games left. Certainly poised to be in a spot to improve on last year's number. Why do you think the Vikings have been so successful this year in the sack category? You've got a pair yourself.
Yeah. So, one thing I think was during the spring, obviously because we're not padded all the time. I think we had 4 contact practices with pads. So we worked on our pass rush a lot. That was one thing we really had to focus on. And, with the balance of guys we have on our defensive line, we all have our strong suits. And the nice thing is we can always put, guys in for pass rush situations, or we can pick up a sack here and there. But the good thing is that we worked it so much in the spring, working hands, working different kinds of pass rush moves, collapsing the pocket, contain rush. So that was one big thing for us was we knew we wanted to get better in the past. So during the spring, that was like one of our main focuses when we're in, just helmets and just your practice jerseys, because you can't really do a whole ton in the run. So you're really working on those hand moves. You're working on keeping good rush lanes. So I think that's one thing that really helped us out was our emphasis on it in the spring.
Now, defensively, you've got like Johnny Breeden in the back that's helping call, secondary coverage. When you go to the defensive line, are there different, whether they're stunts or different ways that you're rushing? Is that kind of its own individual call, or is it just broader within kind of the scheme that you're calling for that play?
It really depends. Sometimes we get different coverages to mix up with different stunts and blitzes, etc. But usually it comes from different coaches. So like we'll get a signal, and a lot of times, nice thing is our defensive line knows them. So, we don't have to like scream and yell it all the time, just so we can keep that away from the other team. Because, by the end of the game, you're starting to pick up on things. But the good thing is we're all able to find out what that is, and our linebackers have good communication to us. So even if we miss it, they're able to pick it up. But, depending on what the coverages and stuff are, the DBs know perfect. I mean, they're very smart, so they can understand, if we're bringing this pressure, what's the coverage going to be behind it? How are we going to do different things? How are we going to roll somebody? How are we going to bring somebody up to fill where, someone's leaving? So it's usually connected, but sometimes it can vary.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's talk a bit about this Saturday. So, we're the Vikings are hosting the number one ranked team, North Central. Back-to-back years, we've hosted them here, in Rock Island. What do you think it's going to take to slow down the Cardinals?
I think for us, it's just playing together. Sometimes we kind of falter when we start to play individual football. So being together, using our speed and physicality, hustling to the ball, I think that's what it can take, because they're a very good football team. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And they have very good dudes that are very good, athletes, and they're smart athletes. But for us, it's playing together as a cohesive unit. We got to get to the ball. We got to make sure we're in our gaps. We can't be losing contain. We can't be losing our coverage. We can't be losing, you can't get reached by a guard or a center. So things like that, just playing complementary football within, our offense and defense, but also within our defense as well, playing together. That's the big thing for us. It's going to take all of us, and we know that. So
now, going against North Central, I mean, what are some of the things you expect to see? Like, do they tend to just play pretty straight up? Do they tend to like pull a lot? Do they tend to double team? Like, what are some of the things that you kind of see North Central offense on the line side of things? What do you tend to see them do?
I mean, they have pretty quick offensive linemen, so they like to kind of be able to get hip to hip and push you out and create seams for their running backs to hit up, because they have a pretty good running back as well. But I mean, we watched a little bit of film so far. We see some inside zone stuff they're going to run. They're going to try and kind of crush your inside guys with a double, or, kick out your ends and just kind of create that space for the running back to move. But they have a pretty balanced attack. I mean, they like to run the ball, establish the run so they can then start passing. But, different things like sprint out, boot, we're going to be ready for it, going to expect it. But from a defensive line standpoint, they want to get hip to hip and they want to physically dominate you. And that's one thing we have to limit. We have to stay low, keep good leverage on these guys, because if we keep our gaps and keep good leverage, we can kind of slow down that run game and then force them to throw the ball.
Yeah. Well, and it's not just stopping Joe Sacco, it's stopping Luke Lannon as well. So, Lannon's got some wheels. I mean, heck, a couple times he's rushed for, I think, over 200 yards. So, so you're just taking the difficult part of stopping a run where you typically focus on the halfback. And now, well, you've got to extend it to someone who can do it, kind of a dual threat for you. So, as a captain, leadership certainly continues to be, important, to keep the team engaged, motivated. What do you think is going to be important to focus on this week, just generally in the Viking preparation?
One thing for us is sustained energy. Second half, we haven't been a great football team. So for us, it's kind of working to push past that first half. Like you go into the locker room, you kind of lose it a little bit, working to get back up to that standard that we're playing in the first half. So sustained energy is always a thing for us that we have to work on. But for one thing for us is like, we know they're going to make plays. We're going to have some plays. So kind of keeping people away from the ebbs and flow of the game and kind of keeping us at the same level mentally is one thing. And I think that helps, in practice when we go against our offense. Like, yeah, they're going to get us sometimes, but we got to make sure we get them more than they get us. But other than that, I mean, just kind of continuing to work on like having a good mentality as a team. Like I said, they're going to get some, so we can't make sure those things snowball and go downhill from there. We got to make sure, we're at the same level mentally.
Yeah. And the other part too is, an opportunity I think for the Vikings is for those on the sideline, continue to be a huge supporter of those that are on the field.
Yeah.
That's probably, one of the things that, I continue to see, like North Park was a great example of like their sideline continuing to be hyped. And this is a good opportunity for us on the sideline. I was actually mentioning this to call the Elmhurst game. I was like, hey, we got to keep getting the sideline in and hyped and getting them, because that energy just feeds back into the field, as well. So when you come off, keeping them pumped, keeping them going, like, there's other ways to continue to contribute. And that's a good way to carry that energy back into the second half. I certainly agree. Sometimes we start off a little slow and we don't typically have the best first drive. It's time to got to turn it on. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now let's talk some non-football questions. And you're pursuing history education. I talked a little bit about that in that article that Tom Johnston wrote. But ultimately, why did you choose history education over any other any other field?
Yeah. So, I mean, the one thing for me is like I love history. I always have. It's always been my favorite subject in school. And one thing is my mom's a teacher also. She teaches first grade. Now she's a reading specialist. So she's not in the classroom anymore. That's been for about 2, 3 years now. So one thing was seeing how much she loved her job every day. She'd come home. She enjoyed what she did. And like, it's good hours for me. I like to be up early in the morning. I wish I didn't, but it's kind of at this point where I don't sleep in very much anymore. So I'm up early in the morning. It's a good schedule. 8 to 3, 8 to 3:30 ish, and then I go coach. But just seeing how much my mom and even my teachers and coaches in high school enjoyed their job. I mean, that was kind of one thing that stuck out to me. And my dad always said, like, make sure whatever you're going to do in life, like, you love it, because you don't want to be miserable going to your work every day. You want to actually enjoy it, have a good time. So that was one thing for me, is just seeing how much she loved it, seeing how much my teachers and coaches in high school enjoyed what they did and had passion for it. And I thought, I love history. I love being in a school environment. So I think this was a perfect opportunity for me.
So do you have any plans to continue, pursuing additional education afterwards, or are you going to try and go directly into teaching?
Right now, the plan is to go directly into teaching, but a couple years down the road, maybe start pursuing like a master's in education. So right now, like I said, I'm probably going to go into it and then work my way from there and see if I can pursue it later on.
Now, is there any particular like time frame or historical event? I guess it's maybe two things, right? So maybe one, time frame you want to teach, and then has there been like any like historical event that you've really kind of latched onto and said, I want to continue to learn more about this time period, or what happened within history.
Yeah. So for me, I love both the world wars. That's my favorite things to study about, World War I and World War II. I love European history, especially kind of European history from like, I took a class my freshman year here, European history 1300 to 1800. And that was really one of my favorite ones. I really like learning about that. I know a lot of people think it's kind of boring, but for me, that's like some of the most interesting things. So, both world wars are fascinating. And then, Western civilization, European history, things like that.
Nice,
Yeah,
I like
that's
it.
what I love.
Now you also talked about, and you just mentioned it, football coach is something you want to continue to pursue doing. Do you have any kind of initial leads to joining, any staffs as you go into next year? Or?
At this point, not really. The past 3 years, I've been coaching the defensive line in my high school over the summer. So that's really been an awesome opportunity for me to get in there, get my coaching feet wet, as well as being a part of like a team, because during the summer, I'm just missing football so much because you're away from the team. But it was perfect. It's a perfect opportunity for me to go back, and give back to my high school, as well as my little brother is a senior this year. So I've been coaching him for the past 2 years on varsity. So it's been really cool. I mean, going back and having that kind of system and during the summer, I get to work out at my high school, so that's cool too. I get the turf access. So that was an added bonus, I guess. But no, I mean, I love it. The last 3 years, that's what I look forward to over the summer because I know I'll still be involved and around the game. So as of right now, not really like a ton of leads, but there's still some time, and I do my student teaching in the spring. So kind of, at the end of the season, early winter, I'll start to kind of look and really put my feet out there, really put my name out there.
Now, you're planning to go back to kind of the Chicago area then, or?
Yeah. So the plan right now is kind of to go back to Chicago area. If something were to open up out here, obviously I'd take a look at it and see, weigh my options. But as of right now, the plan is to go back to the Chicagoland area. But I'm open.
Well, hey, I have a great volunteer defensive coach for third and fourth grade team tackle next year. So I mean, if you're still around and you're a free agent, we could certainly use some help here for my
There you go.
son's team. um, so you have a brother on the team, sophomore linebacker Owen Keany. What's it been like just playing with your brother not only in high school but now here at Augustana at the collegiate level?
Yeah, I mean it's really been awesome for our family. For my parents, it's really cool to see both their sons playing together. And then obviously for me and my brother, it's cool. We just become closer. One thing is we do argue a little bit less, which is kind of nice because we're not like on top of each other like we were at home. But so that's been cool. Kind of seeing your brother as less of like a brother and more of a friend now has been really awesome. But I think when he said he was kind of looking at here, I was really excited for him to come here because I wanted him to be a part of what we have here. I mean, there's so many good players on his team, so many great friends he can make, and I think he's really found his spot here. So that's kind of nice. And continuing for him to work to find a place on the team, I think is a big thing. But I've loved it. It's been awesome.
Has it really kind of helped with kind of grow your both of your guys' relationships and?
Oh yeah, I think so. I mean, I have a younger brother also who's kind of looking at here next year. He's a senior right now. But for us, it was kind of like experiencing life outside of like our home. Our parents aren't here, it's just me and him here. So kind of having each other's back, being there for each other when we need it. We have a car that we share up here as well. I take it a little bit more than he does, but that's all right. But so that's been kind of cool. But building our relationship as dad is like less of like, in home, like, oh, brothers arguing. Like now
Yeah,
I think we really become closer friends. So that's awesome.
yeah, no, that's cool. Now, as I was looking up, so I believe you wrestled and played baseball in high school. Is that right?
I did. Yep. Hmm.
So which sport outside of football did you enjoy more wrestling or more baseball?
I'd probably say baseball just because I played it for a longer amount of time. I started wrestling when I was in 8th grade, and then I've been playing baseball obviously since I've been younger. But I love baseball. I mean, it was one of my favorite sports. Obviously, football was number one. But I caught. I was all right at hitting. I wasn't as best as I could have been, but it was tough, coming back seasons from football and wrestling to get back into the baseball swing. But baseball's always been a kind of a real big passion of mine. I mean, I loved it. I was considering trying to play here, and then I kind of it just didn't work out with football and stuff. So it was kind of just good to focus my talents on football. But baseball is awesome. I love it. I mean, sometimes I miss it. When springtime comes around, you get kind of that feeling. So that baseball for sure.
Well, hey, we can always use a stand-in. Come call a baseball game or two with me for the
Oh
Vikings
yeah.
here. So open invitation there. Who do you follow? For baseball.
Oh, I'm a Cubs fan. I'm from the North Side, so born and bred Cubs fan. I don't really talk about that team on the South Side
Yes,
too
sir.
much, but
Yes, sir.
there you go.
Yeah.
Mm,
No, that gosh, same thing here. You got the Vine line up here. Got all kinds of good stuff back here. So
yeah.
I don't know about those other Chicago fans,
No.
but we'll go with
Yeah,
that.
they're not very good, so it doesn't matter.
Um, Now, what do you like to do? I mean, outside of football, kind of outside of school, what are some of the things you do to, relax or any other hobbies that maybe you do?
For me, big thing is just hanging out with friends. I think I'm a pretty social person, so I like to hang out with my buddies. Whether that be back home or here up at school, doing different things. I don't play as much basketball as I used to anymore. I'm not very good anyway, but just kind of doing things. Working out is also a big hobby of mine. But mostly hanging out with friends. I think friends and family for sure.
Well, it's so many memories, man. You make, back at Augie. I mean, as we were, because I redid this office, turned it from a toy room to now my office. I was finding from, a couple of folks that basically I lived with at Augie, Tyler Coleman, Jared Ammons, they both played football. Harold Townsend was a friend of ours. We're back in our house, back at Augie. So, you still uncover so many good memories, really, really from back then. So, cherish it, man, as much as you can. What's been, as you take a look back so far at Augustana, what's been your most memorable or maybe one of your favorite moments, football or not? Doesn't necessarily matter.
Most memorable moment. That's a tough one. I mean, there's so many to choose from here, especially, I've loved my time here, so that's really been cool. I don't know. One thing for football wise was the Wash U game last year. That was awesome. I know a lot of people say that was a really cool experience. But I every year I just make so many memories. It's hard to really pinpoint one. Playing with my brother for the first time, that was cool. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, if I had to pinpoint one, I'd say the Wash U game was pretty cool, and obviously we're going there at the end of the year this year. But just being a part of the football team, I think, whether it's, in the middle of the winter when we're just working out or, spring ball, I think that's some of the coolest memories I have. We used to have an IM basketball team. We're not having it this year, but we were pretty bad, but it was still, just those little things are the best parts about it. Hanging out with people on the weekends, it's always a good time. So that's kind of been the thing for me is like the friendships and memories I've created here through football have been the best.
Now, for some of the spring stuff, do you guys name it at all? Like when I was there, we called it Berserker Days. It was like the first 5 days of our spring practice. Do you guys have any nicknames or a title for kind of the spring workouts?
No, not really. I mean, the one thing, actually, what we do? So Friday, we call it like EDM Friday and cutoff Friday. So everyone wears like a cutoff or like a undershirt, like a white t-shirt. So we call it cutoff or EDM Fridays. And then we play like a bunch of old like EDM music and like pop music. So those are some of the best for us is kind of doing that. And it's not even like we're doing like arms or anything. We're all just wearing cutoffs and we just kind of lose our minds on Friday because it's Friday in the middle of spring.
Yeah.
What else are you going to do besides go work out, So those are the big thing for us, EDM and cutoff Fridays.
Now, you made me think of something. The last home game, it was Augustana Visit Day. So, they were playing, a bunch of fight songs, from a bunch of other schools, at the stadium. But it was Aaron Call was up there. Our sports information director, Trevor Jassart, was up there. And we were talking as we were kind of, putting together some different music or finding a playlist to play. I mean, what would you like to hear pre-game as you're out there warming up? Like what music, band, song, what is it that you want?
Ooh. I mean, the one thing with the old music, that was pretty cool. I was talking to Coach Call about that before the game. I know we went down to Wesleyan last year. They did that. So that was kind of cool. I heard I'm a Notre Dame Irish fan. So that was one when I heard their song, I was like, all right, that's cool. So that was playing all morning. But if I had to choose one song, I think Yoren, who made the playlist this year, has it, but Paranoid by Black Sabbath. That's
Okay.
like one my go-to thing that like gets me going for a game. So when I hear that, it's like, all right, it's time to go because that's my buddies back home. We love that song. So that was one that was really cool.
I like it.
Yeah.
All right. So lastly, and I ask everybody this, best tailgate food after the game.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, there's a ton of stuff. I like what my mom does. She kind of brings up like sometimes she'll bring up sub sandwiches from back home. Or last time we made a bunch of sandwiches up here, so that was cool. So I got to go with my mom's. But of course, mom, I can't go against mom here. But
No.
the one thing also was one of the sophomore defensive lineman, Corbin Rawlings, his dad made a jalapeno pepper or popper wrapped in venison and bacon.
Ooh.
And that was like, yeah, that was really good. And I'm not a huge, I don't love venison, but that was really good. So that was one of the best ones I've had. But like walking tacos, I know some people make those. Those are always good.
Yeah. No, I'd like to see if I can get some dirt on where some of the other good spots are. So,
Mhm.
you know, 'cause I think like the leading tally or vote right now, I think, are the Straits. So
Oh,
Dakota's
really?
dad. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, there's been so many good food, so much good food out there, man. I remember at the Isthmus Bowl, you know, somebody pulled up a
Mhm.
smoker, and it's like
Oh,
I don't know.
wow.
There's hardly
Yeah.
many schools at this level that can compete with the Vikings when it comes to game day tailgating. So it's amazing.
No. That's what I told my buddies. They're gonna come up for senior night, and I was like, "Yeah, you got to make sure you go to the tailgate before the game and then after." And they're like, "You guys have tailgates going on there?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, we have tailgates going on. Like it's some of the best. You know what I mean?" So that's cool.
Yeah. Well, you
Good
know,
places like
and it's such a cool tradition because, you know, back in the early 2000s when I was there, it wasn't a real big tailgate scene. So the fact that they have really kind of built that, you know, built that expectation out, and it's really been supported so well by, you know, family and friends of, you know, the Vikings and the players. I think it's super cool, and you know, it's a great kind of, you know, Vikings. I talk about family, right? It's a great family
Mhm.
atmosphere. Getting to know so many different, you know, players and parents and family, and it's a really cool scene for those that haven't come to go check it out. So
No, that's for sure. Yeah, that's one thing I didn't really expect it when I was coming here. When I saw it, I was like, "Oh man!" Then you go out there and you go by your parents, and then you're talking to everyone else's parents. You get to know them not only as a player, but you also get to know them as like a son or a brother. So that's kind of cool. So that's the one big thing for me is like meeting all these different families, creating those relationships. But yeah, definitely that's the best part.
dude, 100%. Well,
Mhm.
Hugh, thanks again for taking the time, you know, to connect with me today. Um, you know, your level of competitiveness, your leadership, you know, you show kind of each and every Saturday. I think it's just it's a testament to you. I think it's a testament to your character. So you know, good luck Saturday as we host the Cardinals from North Central. So should be a good one.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. It's been awesome.